Internet, I am InsaneLayne, and this is my review of Game of Thrones Season 8, Episode 2. Alright, so this is the second episode of Season 8, meaning we got 4 after this. The first one I was not overly impressed with. If you saw my review, you know that. If not, please check it out. This episode is called A Night of the Seven Kingdoms, for not really any particular reason other than it's a line in the episode. I was greatly hoping for improvement here. I didn't get it. I can't say it's worse, but it's not better. And some of what is broken becomes a lot more evident and obvious and starts to get kind of annoying. So we'll try to keep the bitching to a minimum, but here we go. The opening credits, very nice, still keeping that ground approach. I thought maybe they would only do that for the premiere, but no, they've decided to keep it. Some new locations, very beautiful, so that's all good. But we open up in the main hall in Winterfell, and it's comeuppance time for Jaime the Kingslayer, who now has to face the daughter of that king. Awkward. She is all off with his head, and, Sansa, though, also has to join in and say, hey, he screwed my family over, too. Because, he kind of killed her father, too, or helped with it, or was involved in it, and she doesn't even know everything that he's done to her family. Jaime tries to defend himself a little bit, says Cersei is a liar, she was never going to send the Lannister army north to help defend against the White Walkers, and obviously she's not doing that. What she plans to do, and this is actually a pretty good plan if you're Cersei, and you are where you are in King's Landing. You are very far from Winterfell. Months, in fact, I think. Well, not really sure. They're still playing with time. But her plan is she's going to let the North either defeat the White Walkers or get overwhelmed by them. She's thinking they will defeat them because they have the dragon glass and dragons. But then that they will be so weak that she will be able to use Euron's fleet to just mop up the survivors, leaving her in charge of it all. Again, this is actually a good plan. And we actually don't see Cersei in this episode. The whole episode takes place at Winterfell. Feels a little bit like a bottle show, honestly, like they were trying to save some money, because it's all at Winterfell. There's multiple set reused even within the episode. We return to the same rooms again and again, which again, Game of Thrones does not really do that. We go back to a group of people drinking throughout the episode in one room, and I think we go back to that room 4 or 5 times. So yeah, feels a little like a bottle show in that regard, that there was not so much money. Much to my surprise, Jaime actually does not apologize to Sansa or Daenerys. He flat out says, I did it for my family, I do it again. Bran throws in the line, the things we do for love, which is a nice little callback to when Jaime said that, and I took that to be like, Bran saying, I get you, we're cool in a way, because again, he's not Bran Stark anymore. He's not the boy who fell out of that window. He's all, transcended and higher power and blah 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 now. So I thought that was the pin on their moment. They have a later moment that they didn't need, but for now, Jaime will live because Brienne defends him, Tyrion defends him. I find it interesting that Brienne seems to know what to say to both Daenerys and Sansa to get them to have mercy on Jaime. Jon is also at the table, but looks really awkward, like he shouldn't be there, doesn't want to be there. He doesn't really say anything. But Brienne tells Daenerys that Jaime defended her from rape, which would hit home with Daenerys because of her own history, and tells Sansa that she herself would be dead now if Jaime hadn't sent Brienne to find her and protect her. So Sansa decides to have mercy on Jaime, and Daenerys gives her like a, what did you just say, bitch? Like, she's not happy with this. And like the animosity between these two, there's a lot, but again, they're not doing it right, okay? They've forgotten subtlety because they're like two catty sisters, and it lacks dignity that the show usually has. But he will live, for now, at least. Again, I gotta point out one thing. Daenerys still has those cheap-ass, plastic-looking braids on the back of her head that look like somebody glue-gunned them there. What happened to the good wigs? Because this is a bad wig. This is a bad wig. It's also just a bad design. There's braids coming from weird directions, and it just looks so terribly cheap, and it's not good. It is not good hair. It's not a good wig, and it's not a good design, and it annoys me. And there's a lot of shots on the back of her head, so I keep having to see it. And it's annoying. Then we're over to Gendry, I think is his name, the guy who makes weapons, and he's the actual son of Robert Baratheon. Remember when that felt like it was going to be important? It's not. Arya's there looking for her weapon that he hasn't made yet, but she also wants to kind of ogle the hottie, and, you know, he's got the body going on, needs a shower, but he's got some definition. But what she really wants is some info on the White Walkers, because he's seen them and she hasn't. He doesn't want to tell her. He tries not to repeatedly. But then, in a moment of truly bad effects, she picks up 3 dragonglass daggers, which look so thick and clunky and awkward, and I don't like the design of the dragonglass weapons, because they don't look like they've been refined or forged in any way. It looks like you dug it out of the ground in that shape, and it just looks like a table full of plastic, and I didn't like it. And then when she picks them up and throws them, the effect is so badly done, and they don't look like they should be sticking in the wall, because only like a millimeter's worth of the point is even attached, and they look so bulky and heavy that they look like they should fall and not stick to the wall. And she does it like 3 times, and it's really silly and awkward, and I'm sorry. You used to know how to make Arya a badass, but since she did this slicked back hair and this weird androgynous armor that she's going for, like, no, you've forgotten what makes Arya a badass. Now she just looks like a little girl playing pretend and trying and failing to be threatening. But he does, apparently this is impressive. Or, oh my god, a girl threw a knife. I don't know. But Gendry likes it. There's more on that later. But right now, again, the cutting around is also still there, and it's a lot of one-on-one conversations. Again, it's a lot of 2 people in a room, and I'm forced to wonder, is that because a lot of the cast had left at this point? It is the final season. They do, the show does shoot in multiple countries, so a lot of the cast didn't work together for a long time. This season is probably the first time a lot of people are even working together, because they're all finally together in the show. But it feels like they just didn't have certain people certain days, because there's so many just one-on-one conversations, 2 people talking in a room. It happens at least a dozen times in this episode, and it happened last episode. And again, this is outside the norm for Game of Thrones. They put 7 people in a room, or 27 people in a room. Not little one-on-one conversations. Those are few and far between, and usually very meaningful when they happen. Most of these are not. Sadly, the candidate that I thought Bran and Jaime had, they had to go and do more. So again, they have a little 2-person chat, as I'm going to start calling them, or one-on-one. I'm going to call them a one-on-one. But again, there's just no... You don't need this scene. The scene is skippable, because all that happens is Jaime asks Bran why Bran hasn't told anyone that it was Jaime that pushed him out the window, and Bran says that he's not Bran Stark anymore, he's the Three-Eyed Raven, and also this might be the end of the world. This feels like the scene should have meaning, but it doesn't. There's no weight to it. It doesn't matter. It's not brought up at any point. Jaime doesn't do anything because of it. Bran doesn't grow as a character because of it. Not that he really has any character. This is also the scene where I started to notice some of the things that were annoying me. You know when there's something just visually off, but you can't quite put your finger on it? After 2 episodes, I'm starting to very much be able to put my finger on it. The cinematography is way off. It feels amateurish and inexperienced, and it's a lot of static shots. There's not really any movement. The choice of angles is weird. The cuts are too hard, and there's a weird amount of close-ups on the back of people's heads. Also, the dialogue, as I've said, is not up to par. These don't sound like the characters I've come to know. They sound like they were written by amateur fans instead of skilled writers who had been writing them for years. Again, I'm forced to wonder this late in production how much of the crew that they've had for years is even still there. How many have, taken their big resume bump and moved on to other things before the end. Because it feels very much like it's not the same people making the show now because of the difference in choices of style, lighting, cinematography, the writing being different. Also, the costumes have been bugging me from the beginning, and now I know why. Because they look too new. That's what's wrong with them. They look too new and shiny and perfect and like somebody just pulled it off the rack in the wardrobe trailer. This is Game of Thrones. Clothes have holes in them. They have mud and dirt and ripped stitches, and you can see the big stitches. They don't have seams that look like they were done by a sewing machine, which Daenerys' dress does constantly. And it's also way too clean, and the material is too shiny. And it just doesn't look worn and lived in, and that is a big part of the image of Game of Thrones, that it's gritty and dirty and people have mud stains on their hems and rips in their cloaks and, over this stitch looks right but this one looks wrong because they made it by hand and they weren't very good when they did it. That really gave authenticity to the world of Game of Thrones, and that is very much what seems to be missing. I'm getting more of a feel that these are people cosplaying on the sets than these are people who live in that world. In what I think is the first good line of the show, Tyrion gets one in at Jaime when they're talking about Cersei, and Tyrion is admitting that he was often fooled by Cersei. And Jaime tries to say, yeah, she fooled me too, but Tyrion rounds on him quickly and says, no, she didn't. You always knew exactly who and what she was. You just didn't care before. And Jaime has no comeback, which is appropriate. Tyrion is right, and I like that somebody actually said it to Jaime, that you don't get to say that you didn't know how evil Cersei could be or what she was really like. You knew, dude. But you liked screwing your sister, so you were willing to overlook her faults. We get it. Over to another one-on-one. This time it's Jorah and Dany. They're talking about how he should have been the hand, but they thought that he was dead at the time, and skip, this scene is useless. Another one-on-one, Sansa and Dany, because Jorah told Dany try and work it out with Sansa, and so she's going to try and manipulate her, and this whole scene is cringe, okay? These two are cringe. And this could have worked. This could have been like two very cunning people, and two very, smart, powerful women, both trying to manipulate each other, and both, saying one thing, but we know what we're really saying to each other under our breath. We know, girls. We know what we do. But this scene is so much cringe. For one thing, I hate with a passion, hate the outfit that Sansa is wearing in this episode. Where the hell did this thing come from? It looks horrible. The top does not even fit. The leather work is crap. And what is the big friggin' ring around her neck? Big, shiny silver ring around her neck with a little ridiculous plastic chain that goes to nothing. And all it makes me want to do is put a leash on her. Okay? You have spent so many years turning a pathetic, whiny, annoying character that I wanted to die early on into someone that I can at least tolerate. Okay? In, I think, 5 and 6, Sansa actually had some moments I didn't hate. Okay, and again, not the actress's fault. I think Sophie Turner is a great actress. It's the character I didn't care for, because most of the time she had no redeeming values of any kind. But she got a little redeemable after being tortured by the world for a little bit, which is, again, not how you really redeem a character, but she was at least not insufferable. But now she's back to being the whiny little girl, and at the same time they're trying to make her look tough. But it's just, the costume, very bad choice. I do not like it. It does not achieve what they think it does. Where is the black dress that she had before? That looked boss. That looked powerful. This looks ridiculous. But the other thing I noticed in this episode is that I gotta give props where they're due. Sophie Turner is the better actress in this scene, and I liked her acting and her character better than I liked Daenerys, and I like Daenerys better than anyone. I don't like what they've been doing to her character the last few seasons, because she's getting hard to like, and a lot of the charm and the funny that I really liked about her, they've really taken that away, for no real reason or explanation. I know there's the theory that she's going mad. I think the show might either be aware of that, or that they are actually putting that in, and that somebody will say it at some point, or she'll go really berserk. I don't know. But her acting was just not up to par. They're both full of it in this scene. They're both lying to each other. I don't believe either of them. But the confusing thing, because of the bad acting, I don't know who I'm supposed to believe. Because Sansa's saying that, she doesn't really trust Dany because Dany makes Jon weak. Men are weak when it comes to women. This is true. Dany tries to do some womanhood bonding, but she's very bad at it, which is predictable. There is at least one noteworthy thing in this scene, which is that Sansa asked the right question. She says to Daenerys, what happens if we survive, if we win the day, we defeat the White Walkers, yay us! And Daenerys, without missing a beat, says, I go on and take the Iron Throne. Well, of course, and that's fine. But Sansa says, what about the North? And Daenerys can't answer her. She had been holding her hand and she lets go. Because Sansa is saying, the North is a free place now. It does not belong to King's Landing. It's, shall we say, not part of the 7 kingdoms anymore. You're going to have to change it to the 6 kingdoms there. Because we are going to be independent and we will not bend the knee ever again. And Daenerys can't answer her, which I find strange, because the Daenerys I know, the smart, cunning one, even when she's being a little bit evil for the quest for power, would have lied, would have just straight up lied and said, well, of course, if, I'm with Jon, and he's said that the two of you are kind of rulers, he's with me, but yeah, the North will totally be independent, we'll work it out, it'll be fine. But Daenerys can't. She can't say anything, and she kind of cries, which is completely out of character and really weak and stupid. And it makes no sense, and I, again, cringe. This scene is all of the cringe. It has one good moment. It makes a very good point that they are going to have to resolve at some point that they really should have brought up way before now. But it's so much cringe that it's hard to watch. We have a random scene with Gilly, I guess out and about in some kind of public square. Men are being drafted. There's a little girl who wants to fight. Somehow Gilly is massively pregnant. When did this happen? Did we skip an entire year somewhere? Because she's changed a lot. Then the group of wildlings that ended the first episode, they're back. They met up with the other guys, and they inform Jon of how totally screwed they all are. The dead are only a few hours behind them. And this feels like it should be a few episodes from now. Granted, it's a very short season, and they do have a lot to finish up. We gotta deal with the White Walkers, then we gotta deal with Cersei, who again is not in this episode, and it's weird. I would have liked a couple of shots of her maybe receiving messages, looking out that window as she so often does. Just to kind of remind us that she's still there. There is still the threat of Cersei after the White Walkers. And I'll say here, this feels out of order. The White Walkers, I feel, should have been, well, I don't know that they won't be, but if they're being fought here, either the battle is not going to matter because no one will win, and both sides will withdraw. Meaning, again, there's really no point other than just killing off some characters. Because there will be another White Walker battle later on, maybe with Cersei's forces finally joining the North and recognizing the threat to them all. But the show seems to be almost treating the White Walkers as not the threat they've been built up to be, that Cersei is the larger looming threat afterwards, which I don't feel is right in terms of the narrative and what they've been building up to the entire run of the show. And this is where they start trying to add some weight to the episode. There's a montage of preparations, even though all we've seen up to this point is preparations. You don't need this, and it sucks. And Jon is narrating over it, which, again, since when does this show do narration? He should be in a big hall talking to all the leaders and assigning troop positions and giving the big rousing speech while strutting up and down. But no. And also, why does everybody have this slick back, like, emo 2012 man bun kind of hairstyles? I'm over it. It doesn't look good on Jon. It doesn't look good on Arya. Stop it. But it's just waste of a scene again. There's no music under it. This is when I started noticing this is a very silent episode. There's not really any background music in the majority of it. And again, the absence is noticed. It's very noticeable, and it doesn't feel right. And it feels like things are missing and that this is not up to the production standard that we expect from this show. It's really not, and it's really annoying me. And then we have everyone way too close around a really tiny table. Remember the giant map table? Could that not somehow have made its way to Winterfell? Please? It was really cool. They're around like something the size of a frickin' card table. Everyone's way too close. Again, this looks like cost cutting. This looks stupid and ridiculous. Everyone is crowded in. It looks dumb. It doesn't look grand or epic at all. They're talking strategy. Somebody says, like, what does the Night King want? Suddenly Bran knows this and pipes up, why is he even here? Remember when Bran was, like, not a useless character? Remember when his powers felt like they would matter? Or, just how cool some of his powers were? He's not cool anymore. He's officially just an emo douche that I want to punch in the face all the time. Especially when he speaks. And now apparently he knows everything about the Night King. And what the Night King really wants is to eliminate the race of men. All men, including their history, apparently. Which I guess burning the Citadel is on his list of things to do, because that is the source of all history of men. That's what it's for. So, wouldn't we be defending that, or wouldn't he be going that way first? No, because apparently Bran is also the giver. And I'm not kidding. They literally say he is the giver, that he holds all the memories of man from their beginning, which maybe he does, but that's still the giver, and you're still ripping off something that came out quite recently. It was a bad movie, but it came out recently. Everybody knows that book, and since when is that the point of Bran? Since when is that the point? Like, stop making up stuff at the last minute. Yes, I know there was stuff about how he carries certain memories. I don't recall them saying he had all the history of mankind, or that that mattered in any way. Again, they have the Citadel. Stuff is written down. Not all of it, but a lot of it. So really, with losing Bran, would that really be the end of mankind? Because they're talking like it is, and it just sounds dumb. Yada yada yada. Bran will wait in the Godswood as a lure for the Night King, so they can one-on-one whatever. And Theon will protect him because he's there and he wants to fight with Dany. So he's going to protect Bran. Tyrion also wants to fight and points out that, hey, I have kicked my own fair share of ass. But Dany points out, I got a lot of soldiers, but I only got one royal smart person left and you're it, so into the crypt you go, buddy. The redhead wilding really wants to rock it with Brienne before he dies. It's like all he can think of. He's got a few hours left to live and he just wants to get laid. And now let's waste more time reminding people that Winterfell is racist because we see Grey Worm and Missandei, I think her name is. Again, it's all two shots, or one-on-ones with like two people. This is weird, and it's jumping all over the place. I think they're still cutting out like weeks of time in between things. They talk about what they're going to do after the war. Really skip this whole scene. It doesn't make any sense. I doubt either of them are going to live to the end, and it comes out of nowhere and goes nowhere. Bunch of people in a room drinking starts up. Skip. Arya and the Hound. We already did this scene, but I like them together. But again, skip, because Arya goes up, says two words, someone else comes, and she bounces. The whole scene is pointless. She goes somewhere else and decides to spend her last hours practicing shooting arrows. And then Gendry shows up because he's made her weapon, which is a big spear. I'm sure it's for the Ice Dragon. I'm sure it'll be cool. I hope it'll be cool. I hope they don't screw it up. They don't really show it, which I didn't like because I wanted to see this weapon. We only got a quick glimpse of the plans, so I wanted to like see this thing or see her practice with it. Maybe next episode, but just skip ahead. By the end of the episode, the battle is starting, so there's no practice time. Okay, she's got like one shot with this thing if she can even use it. But then, of course, here's the scene that people got a little, got their panties in a bunch over. I was going to say pulled their hair out, but my mouth just wouldn't. People got their panties in a bunch over the scene because Arya has sex. And everyone's like, no, but she's a little girl character. She grew up, okay? She grew up. She's killed people. She's traveled the world. She's killed a lot of people. She grew up. The actress is well above age. So is the character if you do the math. And again, keep in mind, season 7 may have taken place over several years. Just these 2 episodes may have taken place over several months, if not a full year already. Okay, Arya could be in her 20s for all we know. So, untwist the panties, the scene isn't even that long, you don't see anything, and I'm fairly certain they either CGI'd or used a body double anyway. It's as PG can get. Stop whining. Then back to the group drinking that I didn't think would matter, but it ends up mattering way too much because we spend too much time in this room. Right now they're playing the let's count how many times we didn't die game. Then Jaime makes Brienne a knight, which is a whole weird thing because she's already been knighted, okay? I think twice. I'm not even sure anymore. I can't remember right now, and I'm not looking it up. But she says that, like, she's never been a knight, and then her, like, squire, that guy, I don't remember his name, he's, like, giving her a look, because they know the thing, but she's pretending she's never been knighted. Jaime says, well, only, any knight can make another knight, so then he knights her. And again, what should be a very momentous and touching scene, and it manages the feels for, like, a couple of lines, but it's just not done right. And again, it's too quiet. There's no music. Did they just completely run out of budget, and so they just said we're gonna eliminate the music because apparently that costs the most or something? I'm guessing. I don't know, but again, it feels like this was done so cheaply, and it shows, and it's bad. We get a little 1-second reminder scene that Jorah has a house as well, and that his is the one with the bear on their sigil, and their queen is a little girl who he wants to stay in the crypt, but she says, no way, I'm a queen, I'm going to fight. So we know that she's going to die, is what that scene is. That scene is reminding you that this character exists, that she's a little girl, and she's going to die. That is all that scene is for. And it's at this point in the runtime that I knew that either the whole episode is going to be build-up and it's going to end with the Night Army approaching, or it's going to have a really short, probably crappy battle scene that better start any second because they're running out of minutes. Also, Sam gives Jorah his family sword because it's too big for him. It is actually a touching moment. It's probably my favorite moment, I'll say, in the episode because it does feel earned. These characters have a past, they have a history, this makes sense, and I really do like the moment. And I like these two characters and the relationship they've had. And there's a feeling of, we're saying goodbye because we don't know if we'll see each other again. And there's a lot of characters that, like, kind of try to do that, but it doesn't work. This one works. I give them this one. But then we go back to the drinking group again, and now they're drunk enough that it's drunken song time. So somebody starts singing, and again, if there had been music up to this point, and then it went silent, and you just have this beautiful voice singing this haunting war song, it would be so gorgeous and so magnificent. And this is, you can tell, this is where they're going for the big emotional moment on the morn, not the morn, but the cusp of battle, and everybody's thinking about, are we gonna die, and the camaraderie, and and the rah let's go thing. But again, it doesn't work because the episode's been too silent, and so while the song is beautiful, all I'm hearing is the silence under it, and then the camera starts going walkabout, and there is music that comes up under it, but now it's too noticeable and intrusive, and I wish it wasn't there. We see Sansa and Theon making goo-goo eyes at each other. No! Skip. Gendry and Arya post-coitus. Grey Worm and Missandei have a kiss. Jon and Dany. And literally it is just cutting 1 second to these people. These little close-ups of two people's heads. It's just cut, cut, cut. The whole scene is just places, people. This is it. This is the big battle scene. Everyone find your mark. Get your mark. Make sure you have your script. Everyone, you're over there. You guys should be over there. The horse is over there. And that's what the whole thing feels like. It feels like a stage director moving people around the set. It doesn't feel like you're even in the world. It just feels like you're watching the production happen. But because we must have one big reveal per episode, we do get Jon telling Daenerys who he really is, and he explains it and what happened. She doesn't want to believe him. She says, you know, you only have two people's words. Nobody knew this. This can't possibly be true. But he pulls the, you know it is thing. Which, no, she doesn't. I'm sorry. Why does this always work in TV when somebody says something completely unbelievable that the other person should not believe? And rightly Dany doesn't. I'm glad that she didn't. I'm glad she didn't just take his word for it. But then he just says, like, you know it's true or something, and suddenly she believes him. Which, no, she wouldn't. Again, this character used to be smart. What happened? This is so wrong and not how this reveal should happen, okay? For one thing, he shouldn't be the one to tell her. No, she should overhear it from someone else. She should find out secretly, and then they're both keeping it from each other, and they both know, but they don't know the other one knows. And that's way better. And what is she going to do about it? Because she rightly reasons out that if he is a Targaryen, then he is the rightful heir to the Iron Throne over her. That's right, he would be her big brother, giving him claim to the Iron Throne over her, and it is immediately clear that she wants to kill him. People are going to maybe hate me saying that, and I don't know if she does ultimately in the show, but she gives him a look that is very clearly, I will kill you for the Iron Throne if I have to. Now, again, this is Jon Snow, who doesn't want to be in charge of anything or king of anything, so I don't think she really has to worry about him making a claim. And again, it has been said many times, though not for many seasons, but if you recall, that it is tradition in the Targaryens to marry brother and sister, which is why I have known for many, many seasons that Jon and Dany end up married and ruling the Iron Throne, or at least that's what I thought was going to happen throughout pretty much the run of the show. But I don't know, maybe they're subverting expectations, maybe they're just trying to fake out an audience by setting up this seemingly ridiculous, arbitrary conflict. I mean, that is what gets me. It is an arbitrary conflict because you've already written the resolution. Targaryens marry brother and sister, so what? It doesn't matter that he has a claim over her. It doesn't matter. So this is a completely fake and contrived disagreement now, which just feels, again, very, very cheap and not up to the writing caliber that I expect. But before the two of them can actually say anything more about it, a horn sounds, we see the dead approaching, and when I say we see the Night King, and then one soldier next to him, and then that soldier has been copy-pasted several times, so it looks like there's about 6 of them, but that's all we see. Again, where was the budget in this episode? I was almost hoping for one big CGI shot of this grand army across the ice field, you know, all these blue eyes glowing, weapons, horses, detail, and that's where the budget went, and I could understand that. But no, you get like a the camera is right here on everybody's face, including the Night King, and then it's the copy-paste soldier. And not worth it. That's where the episode ends. I have to point out one thing. We see Tyrion up on the wall as they're approaching, and I'm like, dude, you're supposed to be in the crypt. And Jon and Dany even walk right by him. They're standing with him, and she doesn't seem to notice that he's not in the crypt where he's supposed to be. But that's how the episode ends. And so yes, the whole episode is just build up to a battle that we will see next time, I hope. If they do the battle in between the episodes and we just cut to the aftermath, I'm gonna be pissed. I could see it happening, but I will be pissed if that happens. I want to see some battle. I think I've said pretty much everything I want to say about this episode. I'm really getting the impression the show may have jumped the shark after season 6, because I was not a huge fan of season 7, especially with the time jumping. It seems very much that they're still doing that, with the pregnant Gilly being the red flag in front of people to say, hey, we're playing with time because look how pregnant she is. The cheapness and what felt like inexperience in the cinematography and the music really came through. The acting was fair, mostly. Most of it was good. Most of the characters were strong. But it was too much one-on-one conversations. There was no big epic speech. They tried to have it twice and missed. Some of the character reunions that have been long coming and should have been more meaningful weren't. Things they were trying to wrap up didn't really get wrapped up. And there were some very questionable choices all around. So I won't say that it's worse than the first episode. I still think the first episode is worse. This one I put slightly ahead. But it's also completely skippable. I don't know if that maybe should put it even, because you really could skip this entire episode. I'm racking my brain right now for one thing that is critical in this episode that you have to see. And I got nothing. At best I can say John telling Danny the truth, but again, there are better ways to do that, and you didn't need to do that right now. And you know, everybody knows, so her finding out, you didn't make a big moment out of it like you could have shown, but you didn't. So, yeah, I'm gonna say you could skip this entire episode and not really miss anything. Sorry. Hopefully the next one will be better, but we are at 2 down and 4 to go. I am and have been InsaneLayne. Bye!